know this year everybody has been tightening the purse strings a bit because of the coronavirus pandemic. We've seen a lot of businesses having to think harder about where they're putting their money, especially when it comes to investing in things like back-end technology, which Arik, I'm sure you're familiar with over at Rapyd. I mean, how do you think your business as a fintech can help empower businesses in retail have more control over their money and also help consumers in that aspect as well?
So, these times are very challenging for a lot of businesses. And I think that what the world learned pretty much over the last 6 months is that fintech companies and companies that are somehow either, in the online payment space or in, spaces like Rappi, which are delivery, are basically the businesses that enable others to actually continue and do business in these challenging times. And I think that both companies that are on this panel showed over the last 6 months how they actually can help the world continue and move. We did it basically by enabling businesses to do several things. First of all, we enable businesses to bring their stores online and start accepting payments globally. Doesn't matter if they sell in a specific country or they do business across a region or the entire world. We basically enabled small businesses and medium-sized businesses to launch payment capabilities globally and start selling to consumers if they pay with a card or with cash or with a bank transfer or with any way that is popular in the specific country where they operate in. So we enabled quite a lot of small businesses to continue and operate and suddenly have an online presence. We also help these businesses with short-term working capital loans and basically enable them to actually get access to their money better so they can continue and buy supplies. Rapyd is a company that stands in the payment space and sits in the middle of this ecosystem. We know everything about our clients, which are basically the businesses. And this helped us to help them during the pandemic. And basically, we were able to give them short-term loans to basically get access to capital faster and better and actually continue and move the system and operate and scale their business even in these challenging times.
And I mean, so you've been described as fintech as a service before, right? We've got software as a service companies, and then you're even more niche than that in fintech as a service. I mean, how do you think the events of this year have had to have an effect on what Rapyd does as a business and your roadmap?
So it's not very politically correct to say that, but COVID-19 and the pandemic and everything that happened this year actually helped the business a lot, the Rapyd business and anybody that is in the online payment space, right? So when we look at what we do, we call ourselves Fintech as a Service because we're not a typical payments company, and we basically focus on 4 capabilities that are Fintech enablers. Payment collection is only one of them, but we also do disbursements, card issuing, wallets, and different things. And basically, when businesses had a need to suddenly change their business models, go from physical point of sale to online, from selling in a specific country to sell globally, they were looking for companies that can enable it for them and can enable it for them fast. Nobody had the time, to go through RFPs and projects because basically businesses were shut down overnight. And a company like Rapyd enabled other companies and other businesses to basically open up a physical presence, an online presence, and start accepting, payments online and doing payouts online in a matter of less than 60 minutes, which was a complete game changer. So it did a lot of good for our business. Our business actually quadrupled since the pandemic started, and the company has scaled significantly. Like a lot of, by the way, other companies in the payment space that really got strong tailwind. I think that our tailwind was even stronger than the other companies because we operate globally. So we're not a regional player. We saw COVID-19 coming in and hitting our Asia Pacific business, then coming to Europe, and then coming to Latin America and to the US. And I think that basically because we're spread so much across the globe, we were also able to figure out the potential impact of the pandemic in a very early stage. At the end of January already, we started to do modification to our business model because of the impact on our APAC business. Then we saw it coming to Italy, affecting our Italian business. And from there, Mexico, Brazil, and all these countries at the end of March. So we were able to basically on the go to shift and change stuff. And it actually be very good to our business as the company scaled significantly.
And Juan, as well in Latin America with Rappi, you've got kind of a double-edged sword here because a lot of people are wanting more stuff to be delivered, but then you also have to manage your own logistics network and drivers and riders and everything like that. So how has COVID-19 been for you?
Yeah, so when everything started, as Arik said, it happened really fast. We weren't expecting it to hit the country so fast from one day to another one. Most of the countries went into lockdown, and we had to adjust the operation to make it work. So the first thing that we saw, it was a huge switch from restaurant orders into supermarket orders. People were starting to try new services that many of them never tried before, like ordering all their groceries online. And we have to start moving our capacity and start getting our couriers masks, hand sanitizers, and all of these things so that it could be safe. So that was the first part of the challenge, and then the second part of the challenge was working together with our restaurant partners to make sure that the orders were safe, and we packaged them in a way where when the courier took them to the customers, we weren't kind of increasing the infection or putting our customers or our couriers at risk. So the biggest challenge for us was adjusting for the extra demand, but also adjusting the whole operation into a new normal where everyone had to wear a mask, where everyone had to sanitize their hands and wash their hands and as much as possible, and more when we're transporting people's groceries and people's food. So we had to change the whole operation overnight and make sure we were ready for this huge increase in demand that also we saw triple-digit growth in a matter of weeks. And then in the fintech part, what we saw was an increase in account openings. When the pandemic started, all the countries went into lockdown, and many of the banks closed their branches or had limited hours. So there were only a few accounts in Mexico, for example, you were able to open 100% digital. So being able to have this platform to open up accounts 100% online and being able to receive your debit card in a matter of minutes through one of our couriers was a huge advantage. And we started seeing people trusting this new system and this new way of doing banking digital.
And as a business as well, I mean, before the pandemic, Rappi had said that they may have to lay off some staff, and obviously maybe the pandemic has probably changed that. How did it affect your fortunes internally as well?
Yeah, so the layoffs that happened at the beginning of the year, they were mostly they were an effect of us being more efficient in the way we do things. As we grew the company really rapidly, we had to do some of the processes internally and with humans. And as we have grown, we have hired more engineers, and we have been able to do automatic process that before were done by humans. So the layoffs were more on that sense that like Rappi was struggling or we needed to lay off staff.
And it's a great example as well about the trickle-down impact that tech can have, not just in fintech, but on retail businesses as well. I mean, how do you think businesses and fintechs can protect workers and drivers and suppliers, and especially those who are in the supply chain that aren't really visible to the consumer side of things?
Yeah, so we became the only source of revenue for thousands of restaurants across the region. And before, we were kind of like a nice to have for restaurants and users. And in countries like Colombia, we're in a complete lockdown where it was really hard for people to get out and buy the groceries. We became a lifeline, and we became the only way for them to get something to eat. So it showed the impact that technology can have, because we were making things more efficient and we were helping people stay in their home and stay protected and stop the spread, and all using technology. And the same thing in the fintech space. People that, for example, needed to do some of their banking transactions in the legacy banks, they had to go to the branches, even though we were in a pandemic. And with our fintech solution, they were able to do bank transfers, they were able to pay online and do many different things, 100% digital from their phones without having to go to a branch.
But as technology becomes more a part of our lives as well, there are other problems that can come up, right? So this year, with everybody moving towards cashless, we've also seen rises in things like credit card fraud, and the need to really make sure that data and personal data in particular is protected properly. So Arik, how have you been tackling that at Rapyd?
So that is a massive challenge that you just raised, right? From fraud on payments or payouts or whatever it is, and data privacy, which basically these two things. If you have to protect data privacy, then your capability to do fraud prevention is reduced, and it's a type of a chicken and the egg situation. And what happened at Rapyd is that we actually built our own homegrown fraud platform, which is called Rapyd Protect, that was basically designed to handle all of the things that are related to fraud and compliance inside our platform. We actually started to design it way before the pandemic and work on it, but the pandemic accelerated like dramatically the growth of the platform because of the massive growth in the transactions and also in the fraud attempts. The heart of this product, Rapyd Protect, is basically, it's an engine that not only does the typical credit card fraud like most of the other providers, but it's actually designed to handle more things that are fintech related fraud, like the account opening that Juan talked about, and things that are related to moving money in and out from platforms in variety of payment methods. Doesn't matter if it is a bank transfer or a cash payment or a wallet platform in Asia Pacific that somebody's trying to pay with. All of these elements have fraud. On the other hand, you have to protect the data. You know, in different countries and different regions have their own data privacy. GDPR in Europe and several other countries have their own things. And basically this engine is designed to work based on what we call a tokenized identity. And this identity basically allows us to take things from the physical device that the consumer is using during the process, things that are legal, of course, to use. And this, together with these transaction patterns, creates a type of a tokenized identity without these personal and private data like, you know, identity documents and stuff like that. This is something that we don't store, but the tokenized identity allows us to basically store the information in a way that is secure and compliant, and then actually leverage it in order to prevent fraud in different areas of the system, because this token floats around our platform, and we really can see, you know, fraud attempts from, you know, somebody's trying to buy grocery, or somebody's trying to open an account, or somebody's trying to take a ride-hailing ride, right? All these things are combined into a single identity on our platform.
And so as you move into new geographies as well as the business itself scales, because you don't want to put a hold on anything just because there's a pandemic. I mean, what are some of the specific obstacles that you've had to overcome when you do that? Juan, how about you first?
And you know, I wanted to add something about the security and fraud. I think using technology to be able to reduce credit card fraud is crucial. And we were the first Visa issuer to remove the PAN or the 16 digits out of the card, because it doesn't make any sense that these digits that are kind of the key to your money are visible. So we have the numbers securing your phone, and you can only use them using Face ID or any authentication method. And I think what we have saw is that we have really low chargeback rate compared to other issuers, and it's basically enabling technology to be able to fix these kind of issues that legacy banks have. What was the question? Sorry.
So as you're kind of expanding into new geographies and you're thinking about growing your business in that sense, what are some of the specific obstacles you've had to overcome so far?
Well, there were many obstacles. We operate in a region, we're in 9 countries in Latin America, and the biggest challenges is that the regulatory side and the operation side in the payment space is completely different. Each country operates their own payment network with their own way of doing things. So we have to customize the operation, and we have to customize how we do the payments in each country to make sure we have the best experiences. So in Colombia, for example, the payment networks, they don't allow us to do the fair capture of an authorization. So if you do a supermarket order, and let's say you are buying $100 in groceries, and one item is missing and we have to remove it, now your new total is $99. In Mexico and in other countries, we just capture $99 and you see that change in your credit card statements or debit card statement right away. In Colombia, we have to do a full refund and then charge $99 because the payment networks don't allow to do these more complex operations. So adjusting and making sure we learn how to operate in these different ways of working has been challenging.
And Arik as well, what are some of the specific obstacles you've faced, and particularly as well as you're looking at more helping more physical stores move into working online? What do you think is going to be the problems for them in 2020?
So at the end of the day, really similar to what Juan Pablo said, regulation and the differences between every single one of the countries in planet Earth is unbelievable. You know, sometimes people think that paying, you know, in the US or Colombia or Mexico or Indonesia or in the UK looks the same because everybody thinks that everybody has a Visa and MasterCard and it works the same. But the reality is, no, it's not. Even the people that have it, it's not working the same. And most people on planet Earth actually don't use these payment methods, and they use a lot of other payment methods. And during the pandemic, really, the scale and trying to operate in We operate today in more than 100 countries, and the differences that we had from a regulatory burden to basically monitor transactions, enable payments in a very large scale with a lot of fraud attempts, with a lot of cross-border based transactions that happen that are much more open up for fraud and to the regulatory scrutiny. I think that the challenges that we had to teach our own technology. What is the difference between doing a payment in Colombia versus Mexico versus Indonesia versus Bangladesh? And there are a lot of differences. In a very short time frame, we had to do all these adjustments in the platform just in order to make sure that the regulators in these countries or the regional players will not shut us down just because we did something that is not compliant for a specific country.
But so with bricks and mortar retail in this year, I mean, a lot of those businesses have really been struggling. How do you think they're going to survive 2020? And what is Fintech doing to help with that?
I think that, first of all, everybody needs to understand that the world is going to come back to normal at a certain stage, right? People still think that we're living in an apocalyptic movie, that everybody will be locked in these Zoom screens for the rest of their lives. But the reality is that life is stronger and bigger than everything, right? People survive world wars and stuff like that. So a pandemic, with all the respect, and there is a lot of respect, is not what's going to kill the world. I think that, the reality is that most of the small businesses that got hit will have a very hard time, to come back just because they were shut down for 6 or 12 months in some of these countries. But it's going to basically create a situation that every single small business that will still have a store, the physical store, will have to have an online presence, and will have to have relationships with company like Rappi for delivery, because without that, at the end of the day, they will understand that when the next pandemic will come, and even if it will never come, right? But when the next pandemic will come, they will have to be safe. And by the way, it is an identical situation at what happened in 2001 after the 9/11 situation. Everybody suddenly understood that they need a disaster recovery plan. They need multiple data centers, they need backups. By the way, 9/11 never happened since then, but everybody always have disaster recovery plans. So it's the same thing with the pandemic. Everybody will have to have online presence, everybody will have to have online payments, everybody will have to have somebody like Rappi that will deliver. And that's the way to be ready for the next time it will happen, if it will happen.
Yeah. And I want to add to that, I think we saw that need, and we're working right now in a feature called Mi Tienda, which is like my store. And we want to make it extremely easy for any business owner to take pictures of the product, to be able to go online and get in our platform and be able to accept payments and to do all of these things that before used to be like a nice to have, but as Arik said, is becoming a necessity, and is becoming the only way for many merchants to receive orders and to make money. So I think we as delivery people and technology companies need to be able to create technology that makes it easier to any small, medium, or large merchant to have presence online and to sell in this new normal.
So that's basically the answer then, is Fintech is going to save the day by bringing all the physical retailers online. Well, so I think that's all we have time for, but thanks for joining us for this session. Arik and Juan, it's been lovely speaking to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope you all enjoyed it at home. Thanks.